Welcome to our weekly program, The Inside Story of Chabad in America through the Mindel Archives. A few weeks ago, we mentioned in our program, when one says over from the Rabbi a letter, he should say where the letter comes from, where it comes from. And we should read the letter the way the letter is. And then if we have our own explanation or philosophy, no problem. But at least we know what the Rebbe says. And that's the ikir, not to put words in what the Rebbe meant. Because some people, speak and they it's their own philosophy, and then the Rebbe says maybe differently, whatever it is. So they should read inside. So the next couple programs, I want to share with you some letters, answers from the Rebbe on different subjects, different questions that people asked. And to be accurate, so I will read the letter the way the Rebbe wrote it. This week's program, I want to read a letter, and this is also a lesson for people who are matzliach in chinuch, of Jewish youth, people that save assimilation, from intermarriage, and to bring them back to Yiddishkeit. And they want to go to Kollel. They feel that they did in Chinuch, and now they want to go back to learn Torah. So they're asking the Rebbe. So he's asking the Rebbe, is that a good idea? So this answer is an answer not only for one, this is the Rebbe's Shita. So I will read the letter the way the Rebbe says. Greeting and blessing. This is to your reply to your letter, in reply to your letter, to your inquiry about my opinion in regard to the idea of you joining Kollel. It is of course well known that Talmud Torah keneged kulam. Now the Rebbe spoke in another place, not here. Talmud Torah is the highest inyan keneged kulam. It says, "V'hagisa ba yoimam v'laylo." A person should learn day and night. Torah is the highest thing. Learn Torah day and night. The ikir of everything is to sit and learn Torah. And as the Rebbe mentioned in another place, that just like a person breathes, Torah is like breathing. A person breathes always. Whatever he does, he's at home, he breathes. He eats, he breathes. He sleeps, he goes shopping, wherever he has to breathe. The same thing also, Torah is like breathing. Everything a person does is for Torah. You can't say, now I'm going to work and I'm going to stop breathing. No. You're working for learning Torah. You're working for teaching your children Torah. And everything is Torah. And as the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, the first Perek, Chas v'Sholom, a person that wastes a minute of learning Torah. And that's why it's called yeshiva. Yeshiva means to sit. What does it mean to sit? Some people stand by learning. Sit means that's a derech, a way of life. So we see that Talmud Torah keneged kulam. So it's known that Talmud Torah is the highest thing, which is said every single morning, even before the regular prayer. Nevertheless, there can be a situation where other things take precedence over it. I have in mind particularly the situation of our present day Jewish youth, a situation which is that of pikuach nefesh. And when it comes to pikuach nefesh, then you have to do what you have to do and not learn Torah. Overpowers learning Torah. And the Rebbe explains here, to be sure, when a person considers what his special duty is, there are generally three options depending on the category he may belong to. For there are Jews whose main tasks is to study Torah. There are those whose main task is to engage in mitzvahs and communal activities. And those whose task is to engage in chinuch and work with our Jewish youth to bring them to a life of Torah mitzvahs. So each one has his tchunas hanefesh. The said options that he just mentioned, however, can be considered only when one is at the beginning of the road and is to make a choice. In your case, make a choice. If somebody, let's say, is young and his tchunas hanefesh is learning Torah, that's what he should do. His tchunas hanefesh is in communal inyanim, that's what he should do. But in this case of this person, however, is different. Since you have already been active in youth work for a number of years and have seen that you have atzlacha in your work, and atzlacha in an area where it is doubtful that anyone else could have had so much atzlacha, namely the area of academic youth, and moreover, in an area where the time element is important, since the sooner a Jewish boy or girl begins to observe the mitzvahs and more certain it is that they will be saved, your option has already been decided by hashgacha pratius. Consequently, I can see no justification for you to abandon this sacred work, God forbid. So, according to the Rebbe, if a person is already, he's saving neshamas, and now he wants to go and learn Torah, even though we know what Torah is, the Rebbe feels what Torah is, the highest thing. But if you're going to leave that, you already have atzlacha. Then the Rebbe holds you should not go to kollel, and you should continue doing what you're doing. This is a shitta. Yet, if, as you write, you have a strong desire to learn Torah and increase your knowledge, you can do so by taking some time off matters of rishus, but not at the expense of the time which you have to devote to chinuch of God's children, so to speak. Be it remembered that we are speaking not of a chinuch which aims of making a small London into a bigger London, which is also a great thing, but of the kind of chinuch which must be done to preserve young people within the fold of our Jewish people, save them from assimilation, all of which need no further be elaborated to you. So if a teacher teaches children, and he teaches, so he becomes a London, the student becomes a London, and he wants to leave, and he wants to go to kollel, maybe you can get another teacher, substitute. Even if the person is matzliach, that's different. But when a person does, he saves people from intermarriage or assimilation, and he has atzlacha, he should not go to kollel. He should continue. To summarize, the Rebbe says, it is plain and clear that you should continue your chinuch activity without the tracing from it, though you may explore the possibility about using your other available time for learning Torah. If this spare time is not sufficient, there's another option, and that is to find a part-time substitute for some of your activities, which you can safely transfer to such a substitute under your supervision and responsibility. Now, one more paragraph the Rebbe writes to him. See, if we read a letter the way the Rebbe writes, I know that's 100%. If you may still be apprehensive as to how much you can accomplish in your Torah studies under such limited condition, I would like to remind you that the beginning of the Alter Rebbe's Sefer Torah Oyer, which follows the Sedres of the Torah, Likutei Torah, the first the Torah Oyer, the Alter Rebbe, that's Breishis, and then it goes to Likutei Torah. That's the Torah of the Alter Rebbe, though named differently, is named Likutei Torah, is the second part of Torah Oyer, as is well known. The first drush, and on the first page, contains the quotation, and the Rebbe writes what the Alter Rebbe says, the first drush. Tzedakah troimim goy, shal yidei nisinat hatzdokah, nase libach u'moichai zakim elef pa'omim kocho. Charity elevates man. So through giving charity, it purifies his heart and mind, and thousandfold as much. That's what the Rebbe writes. And though, in the plain sense of it, it deals with ordinary tzedakah, it is clear, the Rebbe says, that the Pasuk, hence the drush, encompasses also spiritual tzedakah, such as chinuch activity in which you are privileged to engage. In other words, the great zchus of your continuing in this area will bring you extraordinary hatzlocha in your own Torah studies, in your spare time, and thousandfold according to the Tzemach Tzedek in his commentaries on this drush. The said phrase is not just a manner of speaking, but actually means, it says, without exaggeration. So we see from here how the Rebbe signs this letter. So we see what the Rebbe feels about if somebody does takeh in shlichus and he's matzliach and he saves people and he brings people closer, this can be overpower the limud haTorah. And this is a lesson for everybody. Thank you very much. We'll continue next week our weekly program.